I want to start with an observation that's a bit uncomfortable, but honest. A lot of people today look like their careers are moving up, but their lives actually feel smaller. They're working, but they're not really alive inside their work. They have routines, responsibilities, even achievements, but they don't have a personal reason why all of this is worth doing. So, in your opinion, what's actually wrong with people like this? Is it their mindset, or is it the way they're doing things?
Okay. This is just my perspective, not some universal truth. I think a lot of people aren't tired because they lack discipline. They're tired because they don't know why they're being disciplined in the first place. So it's not really laziness, it's confusion. They're doing things without knowing what they're doing it for. They have stable jobs, decent salaries, but life feels flat. Honestly, sometimes they feel like zombies.
Zombies. All right, let's make this concrete. Say there's someone in their early 30s, works at a big company. Their salary keeps going up. Logically, they should feel safe, but instead they feel empty. Where did things go wrong?
Okay, let's start with the simplest thing first. One word people hate hearing: gratitude. Most of them don't practice it. And yeah, it sounds basic, but being grateful that you even have a job that sustains your life, that's a small habit with massive psychological impact. Second problem, they're empty, usually in their why. They don't actually have one. They go to work because this is the right path, not because this is the path I chose. And deep down, they're afraid to admit it, that they feel hollow. So when pressure shows up, overtime, office politics, toxic bosses, they have no inner reason to stay. Just, well, what choice do I have? That's why I said zombies earlier. They're moving, but with no direction. They react to everything without knowing why. And that's exhausting on two levels: physically tired and existentially tired.
All right, can you break this down even more?
Let's talk about a real case. There's a guy, let's call him A. He's 32, works at a multinational company, gets promoted every 2 to 3 years. Objectively, he's doing great. But he says something interesting. I don't hate my job, but I don't feel alive either. What's happening here? Most of the time, people like A are living in what mode without a why.
Walk us through that slowly.
All right, simple version. What is the visible outcome? What you want to achieve? Titles, money, followers, achievements. What is specific, clear goals? But when what exists without why, you just get tired. You know what you're chasing: salary, position, stability. But when someone asks, why does this matter to you personally? There's silence. That's the problem. They have what, but no why.
So when you ask them why, what do they usually say?
Security, so I don't look like a failure, so my parents are proud.
And that turns out not to be enough.
Exactly, because those are external reasons. The moment pressure hits, toxic leadership, office politics, repetitive work, they have nothing internal to hold on to.
Give us the best analogy for this.
Career without why is like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you look busy. After an hour, you're still in the same place. And the worst part? Other people think you're productive, when in reality, you're just exhausted.
All right, so why is the issue? Let's really unpack this. What is why, and why do so many people cringe when they hear that word?
Let's start with the definition. Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Why isn't money, it isn't titles, it isn't popularity. Why is the reason you wake up in the morning, the reason you keep going when you're tired, the reason you stay on the path even when nobody's watching. From a neuroscience perspective, deep inside the brain is the limbic system. That's the part responsible for emotion, belief, big decisions. Here's the problem. The limbic system doesn't understand logic. That's why we can know something makes sense and still not do it. Why speaks directly to that system. People think why is idealistic, but it's actually extremely practical.
Example?
I once met two people in the exact same role. When one of them failed, he said, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. The other said, okay, that means there's something I need to learn. Same situation, different response. Why? Because the second person knew why he was on that path.
All right, now let's go deeper. Why is why so crucial in a career?
Because why isn't motivation. Motivation goes up and down. Why is direction. Motivation gets you excited today. Why keeps you moving on the days you feel absolutely nothing.
Real-world example?
Two people, same role, both fail to get promoted. One says, "What's the point? Nobody appreciates my effort." The other says, "All right, that's feedback. What am I missing?" Why the difference? Because one works for outcomes, the other works to become someone.
This is a sensitive question. A lot of our listeners are in their 30s or 40s. They have families, bills, mortgages. Is talking about why still relevant in modern life?
It's most relevant at that age.
Why?
Because energy isn't free anymore. If you're going in the wrong direction, the price you pay is massive. Here's a real example. A 38-year-old, stable job, but every Sunday night, anxiety. When I asked him, "Where do you want your career to take you?" he went silent. Then he said, "I've never thought about that." That was his turning point. He didn't quit. He didn't blow up his life. He just asked himself honestly, if I stay here another 15 years, will I be proud of my life?
Let's move to what again? Why do titles become a golden trap?
Because titles give instant identity, and humans love fast identity. The danger is, if your identity is your title, the moment it disappears, you collapse. That's why mass layoffs hurt so deeply. People don't just lose jobs, they lose who they think they are.
Now let's talk about how. Discipline. Why do so many people know they need consistency but still can't do it?
Because they're forcing themselves down a path they never chose. Think of it like driving to a city you don't care about. The farther you go, the more irritated you get. But if it's a city you chose, even traffic feels tolerable. Without why, discipline feels like self-violence. With why, discipline becomes commitment. Another example. Two people want to level up their careers. One studies because they're afraid of falling behind. The other studies because they want to become someone reliable. Same action, different why. The first quits when tired. The second rests, then continues.
Now when? People say, "I'll do it when I'm ready." That sentence feels sacred in career conversations. Why?
Because later feels safe. You don't have to fail today if you promise yourself you'll do it someday. But no one levels up with the word later. Confidence is a side effect of action, not a requirement.
Now who? Why is work environment so underestimated?
Because people forget, environment is background noise. Hear cynicism every day, and eventually you start believing it. Most people aren't stuck because they lack skill. They're stuck because they're in the wrong train car. Imagine trying to grow when everyone around you says, "This is enough." Slowly, you die inside. Sometimes leveling up isn't about adding skills, it's about changing compartments.
Last one. Where? What does it look like when a career actually arrives?
Where is simple. You wake up in the morning without feeling betrayed by your own life. Where without why feels busy but empty. Where with why feels calm even when tired. If you know the road, you'll arrive. If you don't, you'll keep circling the same streets.
So, to summarize, most career problems aren't about intelligence. They're about living too long without asking, why am I on this path? And once why is clear, what can change, how can be learned, when stops being delayed, and who filters itself.
Exactly. Like Simon Sinek said, if you know your why, every other question is easy, because life stops feeling like a maze and starts becoming a journey you consciously chose.